Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Becoming Bob. I'm Alex and I'll be painting along today, of course, with episode 10 of The Joy of Painting with Bob Ross. Just starting out there with my 18 by 24 inch canvas, horizontally oriented and coated with a thin layer of liquid white. I'm just putting some Prussian blue in the sky there and just kind of blending that together without blending it out too much to keep the sky looking alive. Just picking up a little bit of the phthalo green there and coming in at the bottom to make my water. Really focused on this painting at bringing it in straight from the sides, nice and horizontal, nice and even. I wasn't happy with it last painting, but I think by focusing on it and really taking my time, I think it turned out a lot better in this painting. Just cleaning the 2-inch brush off there. I'm going to use it for a lot of blending in this, so I don't want it to have all that blue on there. Just let it dry for a minute. Switched it out for the fan brush there, and I'm just mixing some permanent red in with some titanium white. I'm going to take that and kind of mess that around up in the sky. Make some nice white fluffy clouds. I really like using this technique for doing the clouds. I think it's easy, I think it's pretty fun, and I think it makes really good results. Putting on another layer of clouds. It's important to leave a little bit of dark space in between the layers of the clouds because that pushes each layer back and adds a lot of depth to the sky and makes the clouds look larger and further away. Now with that dry 2-inch brush, I'm just kind of swirling it around and blending those clouds in. When you're doing this step, it helps to think of yourself kind of as the wind, kind of blowing it around and fluffing it up there in the sky. Now I've got my knife out there, and I'm mixing together some brown and some blue and a little bit of white to make a gray color, which I'm going to put on now as a mountain ridge. Just working that paint really good into the canvas, at the same time trying to focus on keeping the ridge looking natural and realistic. I also really focused in this painting on trying to cover up the white area in between the sky and the water to keep any of that from showing through and ruining the illusion of the painting. I did a pretty good job on this, but you can see that white area on the right side just above the mountains. That little bit survives all the way through. It really kind of drove me crazy. Just blending the mountains in there without destroying the shape. Just trying to blend them down to follow the lay of the land some there. Now with the knife again, kind of lightening up my gray base color to make a highlight color. Just putting that highlight on now to give those mountains more shape and more character. Some shadows and some rocks and cliffs and just all the little things you would see on the face of a mountain. And of course with the 2-inch brush, going in and blending it out some more. Creating some mist. Making the mountain look further away. Being real gentle though, and try not to destroy the shape of the mountain. I've added a couple more layers of highlights, and now I'm going in with some low lights to add the dark side of the mountains. Just really make them pop and really make them, look three-dimensional. And then, of course, a little bit more blending. I picked up a little bit of liquid white there and mixed it in with the titanium white. Now I'm trying to bring some clouds pouring over the side of the mountain, down to the valley a little bit there. This was pretty tough. I'd put on quite a bit of paint on the mountains there, and the liquid white did go on over the top of it for the most part, but you had to be really gentle. Otherwise you would just mix it with that gray and pull that up into the clouds. and that's not what I was going for. I'm switching back out for the 2-inch brush, and this was some very difficult blending. I had to be very gentle with it, and yeah, just basically using 3 or 4 hairs. Turned out okay. Got my 1-inch brush there, and I've got kind of just a mixture of blue and brown and red and green, just all mixed together to make the background dark foliage color. Kind of putting it in along there, covering up the base of the mountains. Now with my 2-inch brush, pulling down and making some reflections. Now it's right here at this stage that you really define where the edge of the water is. And so it's really important to pay attention to what you're doing, to not make it a straight line down, or across that is, or you're going to end up with the land looking lifeless, and just it doesn't look natural that way. Got a second 1-inch brush there that I'm mixing some green and yellow and some liquid white together to use as my highlight colors on the foliage. Just adding some highlights there to the side of those plants that's facing the sun, which I guess is off to the top right. Bob mentions a few times throughout the show that people who are right-handed tend to have the sun coming in from the upper right, whereas left-handed people tend to have it coming from the left. Alright, I've got my fan brush there, and I've made the green color a little bit bluer, just trying to put some trees in. I really tried to pull the brush to a kind of a point when I was loading it up with paint. In the past, these trees for me have gone on kind of fat and squat, looking like little Christmas trees. So I really focused on this to try and get these trees to look thinner, a little bit scragglier, more like you would see in nature. Now mixed kind of the brown and white together to make a sandy color, just to put a bank in there. A little something for those plants to live on. Now I've got just straight liquid white on the knife, just cutting in a little bit of a water line, and that kind of ripple reflection, and then going in to cut some trunks and sticks way off in the distance there. Got my 1-inch brush back out here, but this time I'm using it to make an evergreen tree up in the foreground, using the same technique as I just did with the fan brush, but using the 1-inch brush. Now this dark color didn't have any liquid white in it, so when I was going over the mountains, which were pretty thick paint, you can see that green color didn't really transfer well onto the canvas. There at the top and the bottom, it went on just fine, but through the mountain part, it didn't want to go on as evenly. Just adding in a second tree there, right next to that white spot that makes it all the way to the end. And some more foliage there at the base, making a little peninsula coming out. Trying to cover up some of that white area there that's at the base of the mountains. And now I've got my 2-inch brush back out to put in some more reflections there. And not sure why the video skips there. That was in the actual video from the camera. Wasn't just a bad edit. Got enough of those as it is. Now just got some liquid white on the knife, kind of cutting in sticks and stems and trunks and all the things there. Now with my highlight brush, I'm picking up some more liquid white and mixing it in. I really tried to do a good job of mixing the liquid white in with my highlight color to avoid having any little white spots on my trees and shrubs. I think I did a pretty good job, and that really helped make everything look that much nicer. Alright, now really gently, just adding a few down into the reflections. Now switching back out with my knife and some straight Van Dyke brown. To put in a bank over here on this side. And starting with this dark brown gives me a lot more depth to work with, which, because of course it's closer in the foreground here, you want it to have more detail. And this adds a lot more shadow and rocky look to it. Of course, not yet. It just I go in here with that sandy color that I used in the back as the highlight. That really gives it some texture and adds to the overall look of it. I'm picking up some of that liquid white again with the knife to cut in those water lines. And a few more sticks, because you can never have enough sticks. Now just picking up some more of that Van Dyke brown and bringing it all the way across here in the front. Put a nice big sandy bank right here in the foreground. Just doing my best to cover up as much of that water as I can, while at the same time keeping with the lay of the land. Adding in a few highlight layers here. Now back with my 1-inch brush, adding in some foliage. And highlighting that foliage. Trying to switch up my highlight color a little bit with some red in there. Making kind of a brownish, orangish, yellowish. You know, there's not just one highlight color in nature, so it's important to vary it in your paintings too. And a little foliage for this side. Yeah, just trying to give a good variety. Add in some more detail. Now picking up more just pure Van Dyke brown and starting at the base there to build myself a tree. Just trying to pull the paint across to kind of make the trunk look rounded, realistic, three-dimensional. Even though I'm going to cover up a lot of it with foliage here in just a second. And now just putting on the dark parts of the foliage, trying to follow along where branches would naturally be on the tree, and adding in some highlights. Just trying to make it look nice. And now I'm picking up my script liner brush and getting a little bit of linseed oil on it there. Mixing that in with the Van Dyke brown to make it a nice kind of ink consistency. Which I'm now going on to add in some dark sticks and twigs to contrast all the light ones that I cut in with the knife. And now switching out for the permanent red, which means it's time to sign it, and this painting is finished. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. I like the sky, I like the water, I think my foliage looks good. I'm really happy with my pine trees. The one part that got me was that white part there you can see in the foreground on the right side of the painting. I may have gone in after filming this and touched it up a little bit there. but it was just driving me crazy. So thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. I'm Alex. Thanks for watching and have a great day.